Hi, welcome to Leaving CrazyTown with Finn and Sarah. Sarah, what are we going to talk about today? I like how she just starts off in a laugh.
I always laugh. Okay. Today, welcome everybody to the show with Finn and Sarah. And I know you just said that. What we're going to talk about today is tolerating feelings of being uncomfortable. And
Gotta love those.
why we're going to discuss those is because part of our participating in codependent behaviors is because we can't tolerate what's happening. So a lot of our behaviors that we do, which are either shutting down or acting out or staying busy, I always use those three examples. Whatever it is that you do to get away from yourself, it's because we're having discomfort. And we were talking about specifically more about in an interaction. Like if you're having a conversation with someone and something starts to happen, they start talking about something and you start getting really uncomfortable and you want to do the codependent thing, like fix them or make them better. But really it's about noticing, geez, I wonder what's happening for me, which is what we talk about a lot, just noticing. So Finn's going to give an example and then we're going to go off from there a little bit about some tools about how to just be with being uncomfortable. And the last thing I'm going to say is, listen, you guys, being a human being can be uncomfortable.
Oh my gosh.
Period at the end. It's like, why do you expect to be 72? Sorry, I'm spitting now. Why do you expect to be 72 and sunny all the time? Is ridiculous.
Is that too much to ask?
There's this great movie that the guy talks about. He loves to embrace uncomfortable conversations. And that's what it would be like.
I like to have uncomfortable conversations when the conversation's making someone else uncomfortable. All right, so I'm going totally rogue because this is not the scenario that Sarah anticipated I would share because we just discussed. But while she was talking, a situation with a damsel in distress that made me so uncomfortable popped into my head.
All right. By the way, this is a trigger for Finn when a woman's in distress. And for the women that are watching, a man in distress can be exactly the same. Yes. So we can rescue men, we can rescue women, we can rescue animals.
It doesn't
matter. Okay, go ahead.
I'm all set.
Go ahead.
When we have yet to the hand raiser thing, I gotta turn that off. We had yet to post our videos from Florida yet.
Oh my gosh.
And at one point Sarah was telling me something and you'll hear all about it in one of those videos, and she didn't feel heard or listened to by me. She felt disregarded and she started crying telling me about this. And oh my God, I was so uncomfortable. I wanted to just hold her and make it stop, but I couldn't do that because, I got to have good boundaries. Had to just let her have her experience. And every ounce of my body was, I felt bad that what happened, was precipitated from something I did. But that's not the uncomfortable. The uncomfortable was like, oh my God, I got to fix her. We got to get her back to normal. She's having a feeling. She's crying. She's expressing herself, which was great for her. It was a learning experience. She got to process some stuff. But for me, and this wasn't the example I was going to give, but all of a sudden when you were talking, I remembered like you starting to cry, and every ounce of my body was like, I need to fix this damsel in distress.
But the key part is, like, my crying and not feeling heard was about my history. All right. So let's look at this. So your damsel in distress thing, what does it activate for you?
My mother.
Okay.
Like my mom, if my mom wasn't in a copacetic state, my life was in complete disruption. She was getting wasted. She was violent. She would bring home guys. It was very unsafe.
Right.
So the minute I see some woman getting upset, I want to fix it.
Right.
Because it brings up all those feelings of feeling unsafe when I was a kid. And it's funny because as a child, I really couldn't protect my mother or myself from scenarios we were in. But my mom would go out, get drunk, bring home some random guy. And then like she was going to go with him. I was in the car. I would go. I insisted on going. So my mom would be on a date drunk with some guy driving around drunk. Goodness knows what they did. We won't go into that. And I'd be in the back seat protecting my mother because I felt unsafe. Yeah.
Crazy. You can see how that scenario is Crazy Town, okay? Like, I don't know how old Finn was, 6 or 7, or I don't know how old you were, but like the craziness of a child thinking that he's going to save his mom, already totally inappropriate and crazy. But the reason why I love this topic is because I know a lot of you can relate to this. And what we do on this channel is not just talk about the situation, but where it comes from and how we can get through it, because it's really that situation Finn described about the two of us and me crying and his reaction, nothing to do with the present moment.
Right. And I'm going to go back to how I experienced the uncomfortable feelings and what happened.
Okay.
Because I remember distinctly, you were crying. Sarah, from what I observed and what you were saying, she just wanted to share with me how she was feeling. And I wanted to give her a hug.
Right.
Because my solution is like, we'll just pat it away. Right.
Right.
And you didn't want a hug.
Right.
And so I said, I want to give you a hug. And I knew that was for me. It's so funny because sometimes we think like, oh, I'm going to console this person, give him a hug. I wanted to give you a hug. It was completely for me. And I could feel that it wasn't right. And you didn't want one. So I didn't give you a hug.
Right.
But I had to sit with that, like not being able to fix it. And that was uncomfortable. But I also know that the hug was completely to get you to stop crying.
Oh my God.
I wanted to stop you from crying. I didn't want, like, I want to console you for the mere reason I wanted you to stop. And I remember you didn't want a hug. And I was glad I asked. And I just had to, I wasn't sure what to do with my body. I was just standing there like, you know.
But think about that. So the discomfort and the intensity, and we talk about this a lot too, the intensity, if you have those intense reactions in the present moment, not about the present. We're experiencing it in the present, but obviously Finn has this huge history with trying to save his mother and these crazy examples, and there's tons more. So the intensity to make my crying go away is really about his history. But he's starting to break it down where, oh, I'm noticing it, because the whole point of this channel is not being run by your past. We are really about finding freedom in the present, not being run by your past, and working through this stuff in the present. So this is such a great example. I'm uncomfortable. I want to make it go away. And this also reminds, we're doing a parenting video, which is
that's exactly where I just went in my head.
Which is exactly what it's going to be about, not shushing your kids. Wow. Okay, that's for the future because that activates me.
And we ended up having a great conversation about what was going on and how we got into that situation where I, started talking about my stuff instead of listening to you.
Right.
And I don't know if we had just shut it down that, we would have had such a...
Got to that stuff. And the thing about it too is I remember when this incident happened, when I didn't feel heard by Finn, I didn't tell him right away. I mean, it was a ways, it was like later, like either an hour later when we took a break. I can't remember the timing of it all, but I remember like, oh crap, I'm activated. And now I have to tell Finn that he heard me. I mean,
was that uncomfortable?
You guys all have really good friends that, oh God, we're not going to have to do a friendship episode now. The uncomfortable conversations with friends, especially the closer they are, the harder it is. But we've been getting really good at it because I think we know that our reactions are not about the other person. So,
and it's better to clear it up.
So I remember I had to really say to myself, you care about the relationship. You're going to say this. It's going to be okay. You're going to have a few feelings. Crap. Okay. And so both of us were uncomfortable in that situation, but we worked through it.
And I was hyper vigilant for the rest of the week. Like, make sure you listen to Sarah. And I'm like, Sarah, do you want to share with me your experience? Because I didn't want to have to go through feeling uncomfortable again. Not that I don't want to hurt Sarah's feelings. I don't want to see Sarah having hurt feelings. So,
everybody, I know you can relate to this.
Yeah.
Oh my God. All right. So
then I'm like, did you feel heard? Did you finish what you were saying?
Yeah, this is the thing, and you guys are going to relate to this too. One of our buttons, and I'm sure a lot of you have the same button. One of my buttons is people aren't listening to me. And
I have the same button.
Yeah, we all have the buttons. If you grew up in CrazyTown, I'm sure you have that button. So sometimes if you're talking and it appears or feels like someone really isn't getting you, there's an activation. Okay, what are some tools? Yeah, I feel like every tool we say is just notice, but what are some tools?
If it's a good friend, you can say,
yes, I'm feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I said that. I said I want to hug you. And I just said it out loud. Yes. You're safe.
Yes.
Like I know Sarah can take care of herself and I can take care of me. So
right.
And she made it clear she didn't want a hug. But sometimes if you're with someone you're close with, you can say that you're uncomfortable.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm not sure what you want from me.
Yes. Is another good thing.
Because then it's putting it back on what they want instead of following through with what I want. Like my initial reaction, I would have just grabbed her to get it to stop, but knowing that's not, and just being uncomfortable.
Yeah, and that's really a good point too, to think for a minute, is the behavior I'm about to do for them or for me? Like that's a really critical thing.
And don't be surprised if your head lies to you and tells you it's for them, because I did that for a long time. Like until things slowed down and I really started to stretch out the uncomfortable feeling and sit with it for a minute, I was not aware that a lot of my behaviors were for me.
Right. Right.
So,
and this is the thing, people
can ask them.
And we're going to wrap this up, but you know what? You're not going to, a mentor of mine used to say this all the time. You're not going to die from being uncomfortable. You're going to die from things you use to take away the discomfort. Like, drinking bottles of vodka, shooting heroin, snorting grits.
Or hugging someone that they don't want to be hugged and they hit you with a bat.
Yeah. I mean, anything. So just being uncomfortable is fine, but you don't need to take it away. Just tolerate it. Okay. Just handle it, people.
If someone else is having a feeling and you're uncomfortable,
just notice.
It's about you.
Yes.
You don't have to do anything.
So that's the tool. Don't do anything when you're feeling uncomfortable and see what happens. Yeah. We're leaving CrazyTown. Fasten your seatbelt.